to see if he can help them get going and maybe overcome the deficit. So I think it was more that than a straight-up benching. You know, sometimes coaches will punish their starters by leaving them in throughout a blowout. You know, Monty obviously didn't do that. So I think you could have looked at it. If he had thrown Devin in there with like 7 minutes left in the game and they're down 20-something, it could. Some players don't like that, you know, because you're like, why you throwing me in garbage time or something like that. So I don't think it was a big deal. I will say this. I'm surprised that no one really asked them, Monty and Devin, directly about it after the game. Because even if you don't think it was a huge deal, like me, you still should ask the question because it may have been a benching. I don't think it was. But that's my take on it, is that the game just got so far out of hand that he felt no reason to throw Devin back in.
I agree with you, Chris, and I think you asked the question, Devin, are you okay? And then Devin's going to say, yeah, why wouldn't I be? Well, we noticed you didn't play any of the fourth quarter. You just asking what was going on. But I agree with you, and this is what I told Skip earlier, is that I thought Monty thought, like, okay, I'm going to give Devin his start Devin on the bench in the fourth quarter, and I'm going to see if my backups can make a run. If they can get this thing to 10-12, and as soon as they get it to 10-12, Bud's going to call a timeout. I'm going to get Book. I'm going to get the guys back in there, and then we try to make another push at this thing. But once they couldn't get any closer than, 18, 19, he's like, hell, we'll just wait. Because he did play 40-plus minutes the other night in game 2, Skip. So he's like, I'm going to save some wear and tear on his legs. He doesn't have it tonight. But, hey, I believe he'll have it back on Wednesday. He'll go home. He'll stew on this for a while, knowing that in order for us to win this series, it's not the first to 2, it's the first to 4. We're going to need him to play better. And I believe Book will play better. So I don't think it was a benching either, Chris. But a playoff career low, I mean, we talk about like Devin Booker's been in like 55, 65 playoff game. It's only like it's 18, 16th or 17th playoff game, 19, if that many. 19. So a career playoff low of 10. But I expect him to bounce back. I expect him to play a lot better on Wednesday than what he played last night.
Well, I would hope so.
But I expect them to play better as a team and do a better job of defending Giannis than what they did last night.
Okay. First of all, I would like to congratulate Chris Middleton on the job he did on Devin Booker in the first half, because it was extraordinary. He got up into him. He was playing offense and hard defense, and he made it very difficult on Book to get the shots he usually gets. They were contested. He didn't get his usual open looks early where he can get in a flow and a rhythm.
Right.
He was having to fight and scratch and claw for all that he got. And he got off to a bad start, lipped a couple out, and it went from bad to worse. So what I thought Monty was doing late third quarter, he had him over on the bench and said, sit down beside me for a second. I thought he was just telling him, look, you don't have it tonight. We don't have it tonight. Just rest. Just take it easy. Just go sit down at the end of the bench and cool out, and we'll get him on Wednesday night. Again, what I hark back to is what Shannon Sharpe has always told me on this show. He has constantly referred to Game 3 of the 2015 Finals, in which down the stretch of that game, even though Golden State was getting blown out by LeBron and the Cavaliers, those were the 3 greatest games I ever saw LeBron play. He carried the load. They'd already lost Kevin Love before Game 1. They lost Kyrie overtime Game 1 at Golden State. And LeBron was just off the charts great. And yet, down the stretch of Game 3, Steve Kerr tried Iguodala on LeBron. And he saw 2 things. That Iguodala looked like he could score a little bit, and he was doing a nice job, not a great job, but a nice job on LeBron, a credible job.
Right.
So he elevates Game 4, Iguodala into the starting lineup, and the rest is history.
Right.
Because Iguodala won the, I don't know how he did it, but he won Finals MVP. Chris has always argued that Steph should have won that MVP. Yes. But whatever, it was a brilliant coaching maneuver by Steve Kerr. So the point is, I thought that he would let Book play a little bit of the fourth quarter. The game was probably out of hand, but you never know with the three-point shot. And let him try to see a couple go down so that he would feel a little better, and it wouldn't be quite the story that's going to be the bombshell story, what happened to Devin Booker over the next 3 days. Now, I also throw this out, and to Chris's point, nobody asked about this. I would say there is a chance that Devin Booker is hurt some way that we don't know. There's a chance he's hurt and that he shelved him just because he wasn't feeling right. So if that's the case, all bets are clearly off, and Phoenix is going to be in some trouble. But we'll find that out over the next 48 hours.
Skip, if you're right, I mean, if it was, and maybe it's a minor thing and he can still play effectively through it, but if it was something that really debilitates him and he can't play nearly as effectively as usual, they're in trouble.
They're in trouble.
I mean, it's just like, you know, I know you disagreed, but it's just like Milwaukee without Giannis. I mean, he's not Giannis.
No.
But still, it being without arguably your best player.
Right.
We know Chris is the leader, but arguably the best player is Devin. So, yeah, they would be in for a world of trouble. And the thing is with Chris Middleton, you guys mentioned it, yes, at home he's better, but he's also just better, period, from games 3 through 7 in these series, or 3 through 6, however long the series goes. That's been his pattern. The first 2 games of every series virtually, he has averaged about 17 points. From 3 onward, he's averaged like 27. So he's going to keep getting better. And even last night, he was good in the first half, good defensively, as you said, Skip, but good offensively in the first half, but didn't really have it going in the second half. Holiday picked up. So he is due for a big night. That's why, again, I'm leaning toward Milwaukee in game 4.
Okay, so, Chris, I want to give you a crack at this because Shannon and I have broken this down several times already on the show. The Scott Foster issue. How much do you think it plays in Chris's head, or last night was it tangible? It played on the scoreboard because Scott Foster was calling so many early fouls that got Ayton in foul trouble, and then he obviously missed the one where Giannis just flat out ran over Jay Crowder and called a foul, Scott Foster did, on Jay Crowder. So the big picture question is, will Commissioner Silver feel pressure now to back up Scott Foster, to give him credibility by bringing him back in this series at some point, even though Chris Paul obviously has, in the past, gone to the league office to complain about the personal clashing that he's had with Scott Foster?
No, yeah, I know Scott. I like Scott. I'm going to say he's not doing anything untoward, but you know, Skip, some of these calls can go either way. And so on so many plays, there's contact that you just let go. So it is easy, you know, to call something, you know, that you'd let go in other instances, and next thing you know, a guy like DeAndre Ayton's out of the game. I think, to your point about Chris is a thinker. And sometimes when you think, when you can overthink, right? And so knowing that your nemesis, if you want to call him that, is officiating the game, a guy that gets on your nerves so much that you've gone to the league office, as you said about him, that could work on Chris. I do think he'll be back for at least a game in this series. I don't think we've seen the last of him. But, yeah, I think, look, Chris still played fairly well. He wasn't horrible. But it certainly can work on you a bit, especially when you see one of your other top players going out with these fouls.
Giannis ran over Jay Crowder. I don't care what that is. That's a foul. That's a charge. Jay Crowder was just as entitled to that spot that Giannis was trying to get to. He was entitled to that spot just as much as Giannis. And Giannis ran him over to get to the spot, and Scott Foster called a blocking foul. And then he called the third foul. He called a third foul at the top of the key. He's at half court. Giannis is under the basket, and he called a foul. You got 2 guys, one on the side and one on the hoop. They don't call it. Scott Foster at the top of the key right before the half. He called a foul.
Yeah.
They did let the Cam Johnson dunk stick.
I thought that was the charge. But who called a blocking foul on that one? Yeah, he's like, well, you know what? I did call a blocking foul on the other one. I might as well go and, let them offset.
So, Chris, do you remember what Chris Paul said after Game 3 of the Lakers series, in which they'd been blown out? The Lakers had shot 30 free throws to their 18 free throws, and Chris was not asked about Scott Foster, but he had, at that point, lost 11 straight playoff games officiated as the head referee by Scott Foster. And if we could see again what Chris said, volunteered to the media right after the game.
We got to try to, limit their free throw attempts.